Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello.
Josh, my friend, you returned from many different gigs with 1975 to bring us word of my ill friend Beth.
Yeah,
who just doesn't seem to be doing
Scott.
very well.
Your friend Bethesda is just, she's not getting better, I'm afraid.
No,
you know, like
it's Little Women all over again.
It is all over again. We're going to have to watch her
good.
just continue to, I can't remember Little Women. I'm not going to keep this analogy going. I can't remember what happened to Beth. I know that, well, spoilers, she's not very well.
It's not good.
And just like our friend Bethesda, because Pete Hines has been talking about Fallout Wastelanders, which is the upcoming expansion pack for Fallout 76 that is dropping on April 7th. That's a lot of information for you.
I thought it was already out.
No, not yet. It's coming out next month. So this is essentially going to make Fallout again, if that makes sense. It's going to
More
add
like Fallout with the fans.
Very good, very good. It's going to add NPCs. It's going to add single-player activities. It's going to add like dialogue trees and stuff like that. But there is a revealing interview with Pete Hines, which was picked up by US Gamer. I always wonder if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Is it Us Gamer? Is it US Gamer? I'm pretty sure it's not Us Gamer, but every single time I come on this video,
I'm going to wager a fairly sizable amount that it's US Gamer. I'd love it if it's Us Gamer.
Us Gamer.
Good.
Yeah, so it's quite a long one, so I'll just read it all. He said, well, I mean, at the end of the day, our intention was to always, we're going to put this out there, see what folks think, and then cater the stuff that we do later to their reaction. So, for example, I think we were a little surprised at how few people wanted to take part in PvP, and how many more they were interested in PvE together. As opposed to, I want to test my metal against you, so let's duel. There's some folks who do, don't get me wrong, but I think it's a smaller percentage of our player base than we thought. So essentially, he's saying we put PvP into our multiplayer game because we thought that was going to be the next big thing. And surprisingly, people who love Fallout, which is a predominantly, almost exclusively single-player experience, was then something they didn't think about.
The thing is, in an artistic medium, in a creative medium, yes, you should put your work out there and then see what people think. But if you have a bankable IP, you've established yourself, you've done that, and people have responded to it, that opening sentence when he's like, well, we built this whole thing and then we saw if anybody wanted it. Why don't you just see if anybody wanted it? Why'd you cook the meal and then ask if anybody was hungry?
I'm gonna kind of defend old Petey boy here for a second because Old Heiny. I'm losing my mind. One use back and we're already
1970
broken.
Heiny.
Yeah, very good. I'm going to defend old Pete, right?
Please
because
do.
I think when it comes to some established franchises like Fallout, sometimes the fans don't really know what they want. They think they want more Fallout, but sometimes it's good to experiment and try something new. And often you don't really know what you want until you're given it. So I kind of see where he's coming from. That this was an experiment. This was supposed to kind of test the waters on what a multiplayer Fallout could be or should be. And I think if you asked any Fallout fan what they wanted out of the multiplayer offering, they would have all told you different things. So it does make sense to kind of throw out a little pizza base, and then everyone adds the toppings on top. If that makes sense.
That's not how pizzas are made. I'll bring the base, you bring the pepperoni slices. It won't be cooked, but we'll put them together. I think that it's weird. The thing that this reminds me of is when they first mentioned they were doing settlements in Fallout 4.
Yeah.
And I remember like some of the the reaction. Obviously, when it drops, a lot of people engage with that system. But for me, I was always part of that other chunk of people that was like, "Where's this coming from? This is almost like this Minecraft adjacent attempt to sort of get into base building and stuff like that." And I just didn't think that it made sense, quote unquote, in Fallout. Yeah. And so for this, I don't know what portion of the Fallout fandom would ever have wanted PvP. Like, where does that ever come together?
I think you make a really good and interesting point with the settlement sort of building in Fallout 4, because that was something that I never really engaged in, and I don't really know who that was for. It seems like Bethesda just went, oh, people love Minecraft,
we need a new thing.
Kind of put something in, and that's the big important point, in my opinion. It's them going, right, we need something new. We can't just keep delivering people the same game over and over again, because they're no longer the best RPG makers in town. I still like them a lot, but there are a lot of people who are vying for that crown now and doing what they used to do the best, almost as well as, or arguably even better than them. So I think for the past few years especially, they've been looking at how they can do something new, how they can do something original, how they can break away from the pack. And it keeps coming with these caveats of the ideas they're coming up with aren't all that great, because you get the settlement building, which feels incredibly tacked on. You get PvP, which clearly nobody really wanted, or at least the vast majority of people didn't want. And I think they're just struggling to find how they move forward, because after you've been making that game for so long, that same structure of RPG systems, like it must get tired, and I think people will get sick of it.
I think a lot of studios that inherit IPs have this problem. And at some point, I'm going to do a breakdown of all the different companies that we associate with IPs that actually they didn't come up with them. Like, Bethesda acquired Fallout from Black Isle. And that's the thing. I think at some point, they kind of need to go back to those original people and go, okay, you guys conceptualized this from the ground up. It's your baby. What would you do? And obviously, the vast majority of those staff are now with either Obsidian. I think the vast majority are with Obsidian.
Yeah.
And that's why you could kind of feel what Fallout should be, quote unquote, in Outer Worlds. Even though that game second half isn't as strong as the start of it, but like that game for me was like, okay, this is Fallout again, and this feels like they're kind of innovating in terms of the combat and the way that they design the world and the socio-philosophical and political messages that are in there that I kind of want from a Fallout. And it's just, if they're gonna, their whole point was we need something original, but their PvP, that's never going to be the thing that pushes it forward.
Especially with Fallout's combat system, which did improve massively in Fallout 4, but it was still, I wouldn't have dreamt of having a sort of deathmatch scenario using that set of mechanics. I know, the PvP in Fallout 76 isn't quite that extreme, but even the idea of these duels doesn't make me, I don't know, that doesn't work. It's not what we come to Fallout for. They don't excel at combat. The combat's fine, the combat is serviceable, it's even kind of good in Fallout 4, especially with VATS, but it's not the crux. The crux is the exploration, it's the stories, it's the characters, it's the NPCs, all of which were incredibly lacking in 76, which had quests where you were finding bottles.
Just fetch quests everywhere.
Yeah, just fetch quests.
The thing is as well,
substance.
the way that they over-monetized it, the obviously the whole debacle with the pre-order bonus and like the bag, the bin bag and whatever, all that was kind of on the side. And then they were immediately like, here's the storefront, and here's microtransactions, and here's this way that we can sort of, and for me it was nakedly obvious what they were trying to do. I don't know if I obviously have no idea if that was the case, but it felt like that. It felt like they were going, okay, we can make Fallout into a platform for content, and we can plug all these different things in and monetize the living hell out of it. And obviously that worked with Fallout Shelter. I know it's more of an app than a platform, but there was a lot of like modern trappings in Fallout 76, and I think that is anathema to what Fallout is and why people fell in love with it, and it also ties into the fact that Bethesda are used to be known as this scrappy sort of dev that could, and they pulled off these amazing feats, and it always goes hand in hand as to why people didn't want this weird, bizarre, bolted together modern version of Fallout.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it like over and over again, but what Bethesda has
76
morphed into
times, probably.
76 times, if not more.
Good.
Yeah, it's practically a wasteland at this point. Hey,
Mr. Hands? Is that what he's called?
I don't know. It's not what he's called. He's not called Mr. Hands.
I'm sure that guy that flies around with the little hands is called Mr. Hands.
It's Mr. Handy.
That's the same thing.
It's not even
That's
the same.
nigh on the same
Mr. Hands
thing.
isn't a pun. Mr. Handy, because he's a handy man.
Oh, I see what you did.
I didn't do it. Bethesda did it.
Oh, Heine dropped it in. Yeah,
yes.
It's good. But yeah, I think if they, going forward, I mean, do you care about any of this stuff?
Well,
now that they're finally making it, after they've admitted defeat, they're just going to make another Fallout.
Yeah, I care. I want to see Fallout 76, turn into something really special. I think a lot of other games in the past that have started out very rocky, some perhaps even worse than Fallout 76 did, have managed to turn it around. Yeah, they've managed to turn it around with big updates and big sort of, expansion packs. What I worry is, I don't know whether this is going to just magically fix all the problems. This might be a stepping stone, and I think what fans are after is a proper overhaul, and I hope this is it. I hope they manage to put in, compelling stories, compelling characters, compelling quests. But I don't know how you can really do that in the framework that they've already got. And they have delayed it from the end of last year to now, which is pretty sizable. So hopefully it's going to be very substantial. I want it to be very substantial. I don't know. Part of me thinks it's better to cut and run, but part of me thinks they do kind of owe something to the people who bought in at launch and who are still playing now, that they need something big and juicy to chew on, and something that's more classically Fallout.
Yeah, I kind of want them to do something, weird comparison, but Pokemon Sword and Shield. Once you go into one of the caves in that game, you can choose to like ping other switches, ping around the world or whatever, and join up and fight something together. For me, the whole world needs to make more sense in 76. I never got on board with the idea of just throwing nukes out left, right, and center.
Yeah.
Like, nukes are meant to be the thing in that franchise that is both terrifying. I mean, everyone remembers the start of Fallout 3, and you can't make it the Fallout version of the Call of Duty tactical nuke. It just kind of can't be that, for me anyway. And so for me, they need to kind of reframe a lot of the narrative overall as to why people are joining up, why these different power-ups are being used. For me, it does require like a complete overhaul.
Right, I'm conflicted on this because the idea of the nukes, right? Because the idea is like you set off these nukes and then the place that they hit becomes, a hub for
a loot haven.
Yeah, a loot haven essentially. The risk and the rewards are upped massively, and that is a cool idea idea of changing the landscape, but you do mention a good point there that it's all done through the Fallout iconography, and it does feel like Fallout iconography of the game. You've got, the mascots, you've got the nukes, you've got the weapons, you've got the monsters and stuff, and yet they all seem detached from the substance that made them great in the first place. It's just they're thrown in because people look at them and they think that's Fallout.
That's some power armor.
That's some power armor. That's this. But there's no real great context or story reason for them to be there. And in some cases, it even kind of breaks story continuity that was established beforehand. So yeah, I do want, with this Wastelanders update, I want to see them bring that context back, bring those great stories back, just make it feel...
Just make a Fallout.
Make a Fallout. Make it feel like an actual Fallout game and not a random live service game that has a Fallout lick of paint on top of it.
Now that they, in terms of hindsight, I always respect Pete Hines. I love how down to earth and honest he is about everything, but I do think that they missed the... I just feel like they've read their audience wrong. But in this case, because he's obviously noted that, they've heard the feedback, that maybe going forward they can salvage it and turn it into the version of Fallout 76 that people assumed it was going to be in the first place. But let us know what you think down in the comments below. Do you even care about Fallout 76 at this point, or would you rather Bethesda just moved on to something else? For now, though, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
I will catch you next time.
Bye. Is it US game or a US game?